Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the version of you you're hoping to become, the successful one, the disciplined one, the fulfilled one, is already within you, watching and waiting for you to act. Not later, not tomorrow, now. Well, you won't move, will you? You wait for motivation. You wait for clarity. You wait for someone to validate your decision before you make it. Yet deep down, you already know what to do. The problem isn't that you don't know how. The problem is that you keep asking for permission to become who you already are. And that is why you must watch this entire speech. Because this isn't just about pushing forward. It's about dismantling the illusion that keeps you stuck. It's about waking up from the sleep of delay and finally seeing that inaction is the enemy that wears the mask of comfort. The truth is, most people don't act because they are still waiting to feel ready. But readiness is not a feeling. It's a decision. You will never feel like doing the hard things. You will never want to face discomfort. That's why it's called growth. It happens outside the shell of what feels good. So you must force yourself, not violently, not with aggression, but with a calm rebellion against the part of you that always says, later. Your mind is clever. It will disguise procrastination as strategy. It will label fear as being realistic. And it will call hesitation thinking it through. But your soul knows better. It knows that you're delaying your own becoming, that every moment of avoidance is a vote for who you used to be. And if you do not interrupt this loop, it will become your identity. So how do you force yourself? You act without asking your feelings for permission. You override the internal dialogue with movement. You stand up. You write the first word, you take the cold shower, you close the app, you start the walk, you take one step, and that is enough to break the trance. Don't wait to feel brave. Action creates courage, and not the other way around. You think forcing yourself is unnatural, but what's truly unnatural is watching your life pass you by while you wait for circumstances to align. You weren't made to be stuck in mental rehearsals. You were made to move, to act, to fail, adjust, and act again. Every cell in your body is proof that you were designed for motion, not hesitation. And here's the greatest paradox. When you force yourself to take action, you stop needing to force yourself. Because action builds momentum. Momentum builds identity. And identity removes resistance. You become the kind of person who simply does what must be done. Stop asking, how do I start? Start. Then you'll know how. And when it gets hard, remember, you are not meant to wait for a life that's waiting on you. You are not meant to watch. You are meant to live. You sit there, scrumming, thinking, planning, one. You say, I'll do it when the time is right. But here's the brutal truth. There is no right time. There is only now, only this moment, only this heartbeat. The illusion of the right time is the most seductive lie your mind tells you. It sounds responsible, it sounds thoughtful, but it's a mask for fear, a clever disguise for resistance. You think you're being patient. You think you're preparing, but you're not. You're postponing your life. The perfect moment will never come. It doesn't exist, not because time is broken, but because perfection is an excuse crafted by hesitation. You say, I'll start when I'm more confident, not realizing that confidence is earned through starting. You say, I'll begin when I feel more motivated, not realizing that motivation is built through motion. You are waiting for something that only appears after you take the leap. There is a part of you that already knows what needs to be done. It whispers to you in the quiet moments in the middle of the night, or right after you watch something that stirs your spirit. It tells you to act, to move, to begin. But you silence it. You push it aside with a promise. Soon. But soon becomes never. Every time you delay action, you teach yourself that you are not to be trusted. You train your nervous system to associate decisions with doubt. And every time you hesitate, you reinforce the belief that something external must change before you do. That's the trap. That's the illusion. What you're really saying when you wait for the right time is, I'm afraid to begin while I'm imperfect. I'm afraid to move forward while I still feel uncertain. But life doesn't wait for your self-doubt to dissolve. It doesn't pause for your mind to settle. It moves, with or without you. And if you want to live a life that means something, you must learn to move with it. You must learn to act not because the time is right, but because it is time. There are people who succeed not because they are smarter or more talented, but simply because they stopped waiting. They began with shaky voices, trembling hands, unfinished plans. They moved with fear in their stomachs and doubt in their bones, but they moved anyway, and in that movement they discovered their strength. The right time is a myth designed by the part of you that is terrified of failure. But let me tell you something. Inaction is failure in slow motion. You are not avoiding failure by waiting. You are ensuring it, quietly, invisibly. I'm afraid that if you act now, you'll make mistakes. Of course you will. That's part of the process. You're meant to trip and rise again. You're meant to begin awkwardly. There's no pride in a perfect beginning. The pride is in not waiting for perfection. Do you want your future to be built on hesitation or on courage? Because one day you'll look back and you won't remember the fears that held you back. You'll remember the moments you overcame them, the times you leapt before you felt ready. Those are the moments that shape you. Those are the moments that define you. The clock is ticking, not to pressure you, but to wake you. This is it. This is the moment you were waiting for. Not because it's perfect, not because it's clear, but because it's real, because it's yours. Don't miss your life because you are waiting to feel ready. Don't waste your gifts because you are waiting for a sign. You are the sign. You are the one you are waiting for. And the time is not someday. It is now. The mind is brilliant, yes. But it's also a trickster. Subtle, clever, and often deceiving. It will convince you that you're protecting yourself when you're really just postponing. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you don't pay close attention, you'll mistake those whispers for wisdom. When you want to take action, when something inside you stirs and says, let's go, the mind steps in, not to support you, but to stall you. It begins to question. What if you fail? What will people think? Are you sure this is the right time? And so, before your feet even touch the ground, you're tangled in thoughts. It's not fear that stops you. It's the thinking about fear that paralyzes you. The mind loves comfort. It builds routines and patterns that feel safe, predictable, controlled. When you try to break those patterns, when you try to grow or step into the unknown, the mind resists. Not because it's evil, but because it's wired to maintain what it knows. The known equals safety. The unknown equals risk. So even when the unknown holds your greatest potential, your mind will fight to keep you small. It tells you, take your time. Let's just think this through a little longer. It's okay to rest right now. You've earned it. And you believe it because it sounds reasonable. But beneath that reason is resistance. Subtle, quiet, and deadly. Resistance cloaked in rationality. So what do? You recognize the trick. You learn to observe the mind without obeying it. You begin to notice how often it creates problems that don't exist, just to keep you busy and distracted. You see how it clings to past experiences to predict future failure, and you realize the mind isn't always telling you the truth. It's telling you what feels familiar. There will come a moment, maybe you've felt it already, when your body wants to move, your heart wants to leap, but your mind steps in with hesitation. That is the moment you must act. Not with aggression, not with panic, but with clarity. You must act because you've seen through the illusion. You've seen how the mind will always give you a reason to wait, always give you something else to figure out. And if you keep listening, you'll spend your entire life preparing and never doing. Some people think they need to silence the mind before they act. But the truth is, you don't. You can act while the thoughts are loud. You can step forward even while your mind is screaming. The mind doesn't have to agree with you. It just has to come along for the ride. Because the mind is only part of you. It is not you. You are the awareness behind the thoughts. You are the one who decides which thoughts deserve power and which do not. And once you begin to act, truly act, you will see the mind change. Its resistance softens, its fear fades. Why? Because it begins to trust you. The more you move despite its doubts, the more it learns to follow rather than lead. You can't outthink action. You can't plan your way to courage. You must begin. You must take one step, even if the mind is filled with doubt, especially when it is. And in that step, something powerful happens. The trickster mind loses its grip. The fog begins to lift, and you realize the truth. It was never about being ready. It was about seeing the trick for what it was, a delay, a distraction, a lie dressed as logic. Do not wait for the mind to be quiet. Do not wait for perfect clarity. Just take the step. Let the action be your anchor, not your thoughts. Let movement be your medicine, not your excuses. Let your life be shaped by what you do, not by what you endlessly think about. Because thinking will never build the bridge. Only action will. You can sit and dream, you can visualize, you can make vision boards, write detailed plans, say affirmations every morning, but none of it matters. None of it, if you don't move. Desire without action is just noise, a beautiful echo bouncing in an empty room. You can want to change your life. You can feel that hunger so deeply that it aches. You can cry over how much you want to be better, stronger, freer. But unless you get up and do something about it, all that energy goes nowhere. It fades. It decays. It dies inside of you. Desire is a spark. It's the signal that something inside you is ready to evolve. But a spark without oxygen goes out. And action is the oxygen. Movement is the fuel. Without it, even the most powerful desires become regret. We've been conditioned to believe that wanting something enough is noble, that if you want it badly enough, somehow the universe will hand it to you. But the universe responds to motion, not emotion. Energy in, energy out. If you do nothing, nothing comes back. This is the harsh truth most people avoid. You are not owed anything just because you want it. You're not entitled to success, love, health, or peace just because your heart longs for it. Life responds to effort. Life rewards the one who moves. So you must stop mistaking desire for progress. You must stop thinking that just because you feel passionate or inspired, you're getting somewhere. You're not. You're standing still, burning up in your own potential like a fire with no direction. Do you want to know who gets what they want in this life? The people who move forward even when they don't feel ready. The ones who build momentum, not because they're fearless, but because they refuse to sit still in longing. Desire is the seed. It's essential, yes. But you don't grow a forest by admiring the seed. You grow it by planting, watering, waiting, showing up every day. There is a grind to transformation that no amount of wishing can replace. There will always be a gap between what you want and where you are. That gap is crossed not by thinking, not by wishing, but by doing. People spend years circling their dreams like satellites. They orbit around what they want, talking about it, thinking about it, researching it, planning it. But they never land, they never commit. They never take the hit that comes with real effort. And that's the difference. Action hurts. Action exposes you. It humbles you. It challenges your identity. It shows you where you're weak, but it also shows you where you're strong. It teaches you. It transforms you. Action makes your desire real. You don't become a writer by wanting to write. You become one by writing. You don't become healthy by wishing for energy. You become healthy by moving your body, eating with awareness, resting with discipline. You don't build confidence by visualizing yourself winning. You build confidence by walking into the fire again and again until it no longer burns you. You can want to change. You can want to succeed. But until you put your feet on the ground and begin to move in the direction of that wanting, nothing happens. Desire is cheap. Effort is rare. That's why so few people transform. They stop at the wanting. They confuse emotional intensity with forward motion. But fire without direction is just destruction. So give your desire a direction. Give your longing a task. Give your passion a job. And do not ask, is this the perfect step? Ask, am I moving at all? Because movement is the only thing that separates you from who you were and who you are meant to become. You don't need more desire. You need more decisions. You need more deliberate, difficult, daily action. That is the way. That is the truth. Discomfort, what an interesting thing. We run from it, we avoid it, we label it as wrong, as a sign that something's off, as something to be fixed or escaped. But what if discomfort isn't a warning? What if it's an invitation? Every time you feel discomfort rising, it means you're on the edge of change. Growth doesn't come dressed in ease. It comes in resistance. It comes in uncertainty. It comes when everything in you wants to retreat, and you choose, instead, to move forward. We live in a world that worships comfort. Convenience is everywhere. We want shortcuts, quick fixes, easy hacks. But nothing meaningful is ever born in comfort. Comfort is where you rest, is not where you evolve. Every version of you that you admire, the disciplined version, the focused version, the powerful version, was forged in discomfort. Not once, not twice, but again and again and again. You're not supposed to feel good while you're changing. That's the trap. People think that if it's the right path, it will feel natural. It will flow. It will align perfectly. But the truth is, the path to your potential is paved in discomfort. It's supposed to feel hard, because what you're doing is unnatural to your current identity. You're stretching. You're shedding. You're becoming. Discomfort is the burning of the old self as the new one is born. It's not punishment, it's transformation. The body aches when it's growing, so does the soul. If you want to become stronger, you push your muscles to the point of pain. That pain is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that the work is real. The same goes for your habits, your goals, your discipline. If it doesn't stretch you, but here's what's even more important. Discomfort is not only necessary, it's a compass. It shows you exactly where the growth is hiding, the thing you avoid the most, the call you won't make, the truth you won't face, the action you keep delaying. That's where your transformation lives. And yet we talk ourselves out of it. We say, I'm not ready, or maybe later, or I'll do it when I feel more confident. But you won't feel confident before doing it. Confidence is the reward, not the requirement. You act first, you shake through the fear, you take the step with your stomach in knots. That's what creates power. That's what builds self-trust. Your greatest growth is hidden in the moments that make you uncomfortable. And that's why you must stop running from them. Stop trying to avoid the edge. Go to the edge and step off. That's how you expand. That's how you stretch beyond who you've been. Think about any moment in your life where you changed, truly changed. Was it comfortable? Was it smooth? Or did it shake you? Did it challenge everything you thought you knew? Did it make you question yourself, cry, break, and rebuild? That's the process, not a glitch in the process. The process, and once you embrace discomfort as a teacher, everything shifts. You stop fearing it. You begin to chase it. You seek out the hard things, not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you understand that the struggle shapes you. This is why action is hard. Not because you're weak, not because something's wrong with you, but because it's stretching you into someone stronger. You force yourself to act, not because it's easy, but because you know what's on the other side. Discipline, confidence, self-respect, results. Every time you avoid discomfort, you avoid becoming that person. Every time you lean into it, you grow closer to them. The pain you feel in taking action is not a wall, it's a threshold, a signal that you're walking away from what's easy and into what's meaningful. That's the work. That's where transformation begins. So let discomfort guide you. Let it sharpen you. Let it break the lazy version of you and call forth the one who's been buried under years of excuses. If it scares you, it's probably important. If it challenges you, it's probably essential. And if it hurts, it's probably working. Don't run from discomfort. Walk into it, because that's where the real you lives. The greatest illusion we hold is that we must feel like it before we do it. That motivation should come first and action should follow. But the reality is the exact opposite. Waiting to feel inspired before you move is like waiting for the fire to start itself before adding the wood. It doesn't happen. You must move first. You must strike the match. The idea that motivation comes before action is comforting. It gives us permission to wait. It tells us it's okay. You're just not in the right mindset yet. But this lie is the slow death of progress. Because mindset is not the trigger for action. Action is the trigger for mindset. Movement changes the state. Action awakens the drive. Progress feeds motivation, not the other way around. Think about a cold engine. It doesn't start smoothly. It sputters. It hesitates. But the moment it begins to turn, heat builds. And with enough motion, it runs. That's you. That's your mind. That's your body. You don't begin because you feel ready. There's a strange thing that happens when you start doing the thing you've been avoiding. As you begin, perhaps reluctantly, perhaps half-heartedly, your mind starts to shift. Resistance weakens. Focus builds. What once seemed difficult becomes manageable. What felt like friction now turns into flow, not because your feelings led the way, but because your action changed your feelings. This is what most people never learn. You can begin without belief. You can start without energy. You can act in the absence of certainty. And in doing so, you generate all the things you thought you needed first. The mind tells you a simple lie. You're too tired. You're too distracted. You're not in the mood. But the truth is, your mood is a moment. Your decision is power. The moment you stop asking how you feel and start asking what you need to do, everything changes. Your emotions become background noise. Your focus sharpens. This is why habits matter, not because they make you a machine, but because they give you a structure that overrides your temporary emotions. A disciplined person isn't someone who always feels like doing the work. A disciplined person is someone who does the work anyway. If you build the muscle of action first, everything else falls into place. You don't have to wrestle with doubt, with laziness, with confusion. You simply decide, I act. And that decision, repeated over time, rewires your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. And that belief becomes your new fuel. This is how momentum is born. Not from magical bursts of motivation, but from small, consistent movements. Tiny steps. Repeated actions. Showing up when you don't want to. Choosing structure over mood. Discipline over delay. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Because the hesitation that once felt like a wall becomes just a voice you no longer obey. And in that moment, you stop being ruled by your feelings. You begin to lead them. Most people live as slaves to emotion. They wait for a good day. They wait for clarity. They wait for the right vibe, the right energy, the right inspiration. But the people who build extraordinary lives, they don't wait. They create those states through movement. You want clarity? Start. You want confidence? Begin. You want motivation? Move. You don't need to feel ready. You need to act anyway. And here's the paradox. The moment you start, the resistance shrinks. What looked like a mountain becomes a hill. What felt like fear becomes fuel. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you stopped obeying your emotions and started trusting your choice. So don't wait for the spark. Become the spark. Don't wait for the wave. Be the wave. Start now. Especially when you don't feel like it, because that's when it matters most. We often think our environment is just background, a passive space where life unfolds. But the truth is, your environment is quietly shaping your every decision. The people around you, the energy of your space, the noise you consume, the systems you've built or failed to build. These things are not neutral. They are sculpting your behavior, feeding your habits, either pulling you toward growth or quietly dragging you into stagnation. You want to take action? Then you must become the architect of your environment, because willpower is limited. Motivation fades. But your surroundings, they remain. And they are either nudging you forward or reinforcing your inertia. Look closely. Are you surrounded by people who challenge you? People who live the discipline you say you want? Or are you surrounded by comfort seekers, excuse makers, people who validate your procrastination because it makes them feel better about their own? We underestimate just how contagious mediocrity is, just how easy it is to adopt the mindset of the crowd. If your environment rewards laziness, if it glorifies distraction, if it rewards staying small, then no matter how strong your intentions are, they'll be chipped away day by day until all that's left is a whisper of what you hoped to become. But the reverse is also true. Surround yourself with those who are hungry, who act even when they don't feel like it, who rise early, who read, who create, who train, who move with purpose. And your standards will rise automatically. Not because you're trying harder, but because the energy demands it. You feel it, you absorb it. And suddenly mediocrity no longer feels comfortable, it feels foreign. Your physical space matters too. Is your environment designed for action or for avoidance? If your phone is always in reach, if your workspace is cluttered, if your bed is your office, then you've made inaction easy. You've built a temple to procrastination and then wondered why you can't stay focused. But what if you flipped it? What if you designed your space for movement, for clarity, for purpose? What if you made action easy and distraction difficult? One clear surface, one set intention, one ritual that grounds you. That's all it takes to create momentum. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Most people drift through their environments unconsciously. They allow their surroundings to dictate their behavior without ever realizing it. But if you wake up to it, if you start curating your world with awareness, then your environment becomes your ally, not your enemy. This is why routines matter. Not because they make you robotic, but because they remove friction. When your environment supports your habits, you no longer rely on willpower, you just do. And the more you do, the more powerful you feel, because you've taken control. It's tempting to think you can thrive in any setting, that true discipline means being unaffected by chaos. But in truth, the most successful people know how to engineer their world to support their goals. They don't leave it to chance. They build habits into their space. They put reminders where they need to see them. They cut off distractions at the source. they design around them. You can do the same. If you want to work, remove what pulls your attention. If you want to train, make your gear visible and ready. If you want to create, make the tools accessible. If you want to rest, protect your peace. And if you want to evolve, elevate who you spend time with. Because nothing changes your life faster than proximity to greatness or to failure. Your environment whispers to you every day. Make sure it's saying something worth listening to. So ask yourself honestly, is your environment reinforcing the person you're trying to become? Or is it anchoring you to the person you're trying to leave behind? You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the strength of your environment. And if you want to take action consistently, not just once, not just when you feel inspired, but every day, then you must take control of the space around you. Shape it, build it, protect it. Because if you don't design your environment with intention, it will be designed for you. By inertia, by noise, by distraction. And then you will wonder why nothing changes. Build a space where action is inevitable. Then step into it, again and again, until it's no longer effort, it's just who you are. Every day you are faced with a simple but life-altering choice. Act now or wait. And most people choose to wait. They wait for clarity, they wait for confidence, they wait for someone to tell them it's time. But in truth, waiting becomes a habit, a reflex that buries potential under layers of hesitation. The longer you wait to act, the harder it becomes to act at all. Delaying action creates a false sense of comfort. You convince yourself that thinking more, planning more, or just taking some time is progress. But deep down, you know it's not. It's avoidance dressed up as preparation. It feels like you're moving forward, but in reality, you're spinning in place. The clock ticks, and your window narrows. Every moment you hesitate, resistance grows stronger. The task begins to feel bigger. Doubt begins to speak louder. The mind magnifies the fear. And soon what was once a simple step becomes a mountain in your imagination. This is the power of delay. It distorts reality. What you don't do today becomes heavier tomorrow. Action avoided compounds like interest in a toxic account. You don't just lose time, you lose momentum, belief, and identity. The more you hesitate, the more you begin to see yourself as someone who hesitates. And once that identity takes root, it becomes even harder to break the cycle. You may think putting things off is harmless, that you'll get to it later, but that story you tell yourself of a future where conditions are perfect, where you feel fully ready, that story is fiction. It's comforting, yes, but it's also a trap, because that perfect moment never arrives. Life doesn't slow down to give you the clarity you think you need. The world doesn't pause while you build up the courage. Here's what's real. Clarity comes from action. Confidence is built through movement. You become ready by starting before you feel ready. Every time you choose to act now, in spite of the fear, in spite of the uncertainty, you reclaim power. You tell your mind, I decide. And with that decision, something inside you shifts. You build a new pattern, one of immediacy, of boldness, of self-trust. What if you stopped waiting? What if, instead of postponing, you practiced doing the hard thing first? What if you trained yourself to act on impulse? Not the impulse of fear, but the quiet impulse of knowing. When a meaningful task appears, The right response isn't later, it's now. Not because it's convenient, not because it's easy, but because every second you delay adds weight. Taking action early means taking action lightly. It means momentum instead of mental struggle. It means building a life that moves forward instead of one that stalls in hesitation. Hesitation is subtle, but deadly. It kills dreams not with loud destruction, but with slow decay. One day becomes a week becomes a year, and before long your potential becomes a memory. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can reverse the habit. You can retrain your nervous system to embrace motion, to lean into the tension instead of away from it, to take the step now, not when you feel fearless, but precisely when you feel unsure, because that's where your power lives. Every time you choose to act without delay, you weaken the voice of doubt, you reinforce a new identity, one of decisiveness, of courage, of trust. And with each repetition, it becomes easier. Not because life gets simpler, but because you become stronger. Start small. Send the message. Make the call. Do the reps. Write the page. Speak the truth. Whatever the action is, do it now. Let now become your habit, your reflex, your way of life, and watch how quickly things begin to change. Success doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most decisive, the ones who don't wait, the ones who understand that the price of delay is far greater than the cost of imperfect action. Make it a rule. If it matters, act on it now. Not tomorrow, not later today, now. Because the difference between those who build the life they want and those who only dream about it is often just a few seconds of hesitation. And the ones who win, they don't hesitate. They move. Your mind is not always your ally. It is ancient, patterned, and designed for survival, not success. Left unchecked, it clings to the familiar, avoids the unknown, and whispers every excuse to keep you small. If you do not learn to train it, it will run you in circles, chasing comfort, fearing risk, and postponing action. This is the great paradox of being human. Your mind, the very thing that holds infinite potential, also contains the resistance that can sabotage every dream you have. And resistance doesn't show up loudly. It hides. It speaks in the language of logic. Now's not the time. You're not ready yet. It's too late. What if it doesn't work? These aren't just random thoughts. They are programmed beliefs that have been reinforced over time by inaction, fear, and comfort. You think you're being cautious, but really, you're being controlled. To force yourself to take action, you must first take back control of the dialogue within. You must stop treating every thought as truth. Not every voice in your head is yours. Some are echoes of past failures. Some are inherited fears. Some are the projections of other people's doubts. Learn to observe your thoughts without obeying them. Detach. Become aware. Because awareness is the first act of power. Without mental discipline, you will endlessly negotiate with yourself. You will argue over the simplest actions. Should I start now? Maybe I'll wait until I feel better. Maybe I'll try again tomorrow. And each time you delay, you strengthen the part of your mind that wants to keep you still. But you are not meant to be still. You are meant to move, to evolve, to act in spite of hesitation. This is why training the mind matters. You must treat it like a wild animal, not with violence, but with consistency and presence. You must wake up daily and take it to the edge. Challenge it. Prove to it that you are in charge. Start small. When it says sleep in, you rise. When it says skip the workout, you show up. When it says wait, you begin. Not for the sake of discipline itself, but because every time you do this, you build internal strength. You rewire your identity from passive to active, from reactive to intentional. And something incredible happens when your mind starts to listen to you. The excuses fade, the delays shrink. You begin to feel something most people never feel. Inner alignment. You say you'll do something, and you do it. Your word becomes law, not to the world, but to yourself. And that is where real self-confidence begins. People talk about motivation as if it's a feeling that comes and goes. But what they don't understand is that motivation is simply the byproduct of mental clarity and trust. When your mind is clear, when it is not cluttered with conflicting thoughts, doubts, and fears, you move naturally. You act without overthinking. You execute without waiting for the perfect mood. That clarity comes from practice, from returning again and again to what matters, from quieting the noise of distraction and tuning in to the deeper signal of purpose. Because underneath all the hesitation, beneath all the resistance, there is a knowing in you, a still, strong voice that says, this is what I must do. You must learn to listen to that voice and silence the rest. Don't expect your mind to cooperate at first. It will fight. It will resist change. But over time, with repetition, it will bend. It will adjust. Because the mind is a tool. And like any tool, it can be sharpened or dulled, depending on how you use it. So sharpen it. Train it to focus. Train it to begin. Train it to obey you. This is the path of the few, the ones who rise not because they feel like it, but because they've mastered the voice that once held them back. They are not fearless. They are focused. They are not lucky. They are trained. And so are you, if you choose to be. Don't be ruled by a chaotic mind. Don't hand over your power to doubt and distraction. Reclaim your mental space. Build strength where there was once confusion. Build discipline where there was once delay. Because the key to action is not just in your habits or your goals or your plans. It's in your mind. And the moment you take ownership of it, the moment you say, I am not my thoughts, I am the one who chooses, everything changes. Your life begins where your excuses end. Train the mind, and the body will follow. Train the mind, and the future opens. Train the mind, and nothing can stop you. So here we are, full circle. You came searching for a way to force yourself to take action, perhaps believing it would come from pressure or some magical surge of motivation. But now you know the truth. Action isn't about force. It's about alignment. It's about understanding that motion precedes emotion, that discipline overrides doubt, and that clarity is born not from thinking, but from doing. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need anyone's permission. What you need is to move, now, not later. Because the longer you wait, the louder resistance becomes. But the moment you act, that voice fades. You reclaim your power. You silence the doubt, not by arguing with it, but by proving it wrong through motion. You've seen the tools. Question your emotions. Create a structure. Design your environment. Train your mind. Don't just understand them. Live them. Apply them in the moments that matter most. When you don't feel like it, when it's uncomfortable, when your mind screams to stay still. Those moments are the doorway. Step through them. This is your turning point, not with noise, not with drama, but with a quiet decision. I will no longer be a prisoner of hesitation. I will lead my mind. I will direct my days, and I will act again and again until it becomes who I am. Because greatness doesn't wait, and neither should you.